I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take Two. This morning, I'm having breakfast with one of my neighbors. He lives just a 5-minute drive from my condo. And as much as we've struggled with money, we have a cozy little condo. It's beautifully decorated with thrifted furniture. But my friend KT, this is his home. And it's 111 degrees here today. Everybody in their right minds is inside. I brought water and I'm here to see what he needs. What do you need right now?
Just two cold experiences and the bike pump and the lock.
Okay, and the bike pump that you had was a battery-powered one?
Yeah, from Amazon.
Okay.
$25 one.
And you need a really good lock because people will cut through it and steal your bike.
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as you're able to get that charged and get into your email, then print the label, and I will take the phone and send it off so that we can get your replacement, okay?
That sounds weird, but
I know. Okay, so Wednesday. I hear a lot of people talking about the homeless problem. I see very few people doing anything about it. So today I'd like to share with you my micro model for homelessness management that I created 7 years ago. KT has been homeless since he was 17 years old. Intergenerational poverty, drug use. He spent 8 years out here in the heat. I've been out here for 30 minutes and I'm about to die. Maybe I've mentioned a time or two on here that I was Mormon for many years, 44 years to be exact. And at one point, my ex-husband Jake and I estimated the amount of tithes and offerings that we had paid to the church, the two of us combined, for our whole lives, up to age 44. And I know that this is a real big range. We estimated that we had paid between $200,000 and $300,000 in the 24 years that we were married. And then I was estimating for the income that I would have made as a waitress in my college days and Jake's jobs prior to meeting me. Just to give you a little idea of what that looked like on a yearly basis, as Mormons, we paid 10% of our income to tithing, and that's on your gross. So if we earned $100,000 in a year, then that would have been $10,000 in a year. If we earned, on a $250,000 year, we would have paid $25,000 a year. That's almost $2,000 a month in tithing. That's almost as much as my rent today. On top of that, we also paid fast offerings, which is the first Sunday of every month. You are supposed to skip breakfast and lunch, and whatever money you would have spent on that, you're supposed to donate to the poor. So that would average about $200 or $300 that we would pay to that fast offering. We also supported 2 separate missionaries on missions, not our own children. One of them was a friend of mine from our ward who couldn't afford to send her son out. One was a $10,000 donation. One of them, was a little bit more than that. We also sent our own son out on his mission. And then, of course, we donated to Friends of Scouting. We would donate to the Perpetual Education Fund. There were times that we donated thousands of dollars to the Humanitarian Fund if there were ever disasters. Here's why I paid all that money. I really have a heart for helping people. I always have. And unfortunately, I had some tools that were a little bit, problematic to say the least. And I thought that when I was paying that money that I was actually helping people. We were paying generously, and I just imagined, kids in South America getting vaccines and single moms getting car seats and food money and things like that. And while we did have a really good income for most of our life, I had about 5 years where I was recovering from an ovarian tumor and had major medical problems, was hospitalized off and on and fighting for my life. And during that time, we had a medical bankruptcy, our business collapsed, and we were without a home and had to move in with my sister. So I have certainly had my fair share of struggles. And during all of those times, we continued to pay tithing. Yes, I made sure that I wrote out a tithing check to my bishop right before going into the hospital for the surgery to remove my ovarian tumor, because I wanted to make sure that I was squared with God in case anything happened. I was dying of a tumor. And the Mormon church was still taking my money. And I was giving them that money because I thought, as bad as it is for me, there's somebody else out there. There's some single mom somewhere that needs this. So after I left the church, finding out that they're a $1 trillion organization and that they own most of the land now in Nebraska and Florida and all over the United States, they're building malls, they're buying up chunks of, $700 million at a time of Tesla stock and other things. Finding out how rich they were just absolutely crushed me. And it made me more committed than ever before to helping people in a way that I could control, where it was straight from my hand to the hands of somebody who needed it. Because I spent some time homeless after my divorce, and I know what that's like to sleep in a car, to sleep outside on a literal bench, to tent camp behind a tree somewhere. I have a huge heart for homeless people. And in the very beginning, after my divorce, when I had no money of my own and could barely buy groceries, I made a commitment that every month, no matter what, I would donate $40 directly to somebody who needed it. Sometimes I would spend that $40 and buy the stuff to make sandwiches and take out to like all of the homeless people that I could get to. One Christmas, I took my $40 and gave it to a single mom who worked at our local grocery store here. While I was swiping my food stamp card one day, she told me that she was on food stamps too. She's like, don't feel bad, I'm on food stamps too. Two things that I learned right away. Number one, it is a lot easier to just write out a check and give it to a church and feel like they're helping someone than it is to actually help people. Some of the people I help have like physically assaulted me. I've been in some dangerous situations. I had a woman in a wheelchair that Brody and I were helping care for on a fairly consistent basis. We're helping Miss Kelly. And one time she didn't like the soda that I had bought for her. So she took the lid off, doused me with it, and then threw it at me, which hurt fairly bad. And sometimes it's just overwhelming and discouraging, to be honest. It's nice to have that buffer. Kind of keeps us from getting our hands dirty, right? Like, I don't have to actually be out there on the streets with the homeless people when I'm just writing out a check and my church is doing everything. But here's the second thing that I've learned about actually helping people with my bare hands. And that is that we as humans have the capacity to bond to other humans in miraculous and really remarkable ways. I love KT. I fall asleep thinking about if he's okay and what he needs. And if I'm at Ross and there's a clearance rack full of jeans that I'm, helping my son do some school shopping, I will look for size for him because I am as concerned for him as I am for my own child. I'm going to share an essay that I wrote here recently about what I do. And I've actually been doing this now for 7 years. And we've kind of duplicated it. So I have some other groups that are doing the same thing. And before I read that, I just want you to really think about if there isn't somebody in your community that you can reach out to and connect person to person. And maybe your thing isn't homeless. Maybe it's kids who just need help with school stuff. Maybe it's single moms. Maybe it's the elderly. Maybe you're a musician and your thing is you can offer one free music lesson. If I had not been given free music lessons as a child, I would not have become the accomplished musician that I did. My family was so poor, and I had some musicians just take me under their wings and teach me their thing. I just have to show you before I get to work here. I actually have KT's cell phone in my pocket here because I need to get the mailing label and send this off. I purchased this phone for him with the help of my little group. There's just 4 women that help support KT as much as we can. He was smart enough to purchase the protection plan, so I need to get this in the mail and get this sent back so that we can get him a new device so he can communicate. We don't need churches to help us connect with one another. In fact, there's so much more power and possibility if we just do this ourselves. By the way, I am noticing that I have a cross over my shoulder as I talk about my atheist nonprofit. Kevin is a Christian. He is such a beautiful, kind, compassionate Christian. That cross belongs to him. That is not mine. All right, the title of this article is My Homeless Friend Texted Me This Morning, a micro approach to the homelessness that tribal decay has created. And I'll share with you the photo that I put in the article. Like I say, I've been helping homeless people through various nonprofits and then through my own approach for many years. And Michael, who's in this photo here with my son, was a man that I helped for about a year and a half. And when I became homeless during my divorce, I saw Michael one day and he gave me half of his sandwich. So here we go. This morning, my phone buzzed in the dark on my headboard, waking me instantly. A friend needed help, but it could wait an hour. After texting back what he needed from me, he sent a photo of a stereo speaker he was listing for sale, proud of the find from the day before. He flips items on Facebook Marketplace to make some cash. No sooner had I set the phone down than it buzzed again. Another friend, this one a journalist from a prestigious publication, needed a few photos from me. Her message sat right above his on the screen of my phone. One conversation from a man waking up behind a dumpster where he spent most of the last 8 years since age 17, and one from a woman sipping espresso in her historic high-rise in Paris. That was a really fun experience, by the way. I was featured in a French documentary here recently. Both of these friends are equally dear to me. My friend KT came into my life the way a lot of my homeless friends do, through my teenage son. I had dug to the bottom of my purse to find my last bit of cash one day, a $10 bill, so my son could go to lunch with friends. Then he texted me shortly after to ask me to transfer lunch money onto his card. I gave my cash to a homeless guy on the way to In-N-Out, he told me. The next night, while doing his dish job for dinner, he asked to box up the leftovers for my friend on the corner, the homeless guy, he said. So we did, and packed a small bag with sandwiches and snacks, grabbed a couple cold water bottles from the fridge, and drove to the corner where he stood with his cardboard sign every day. I've worked with groups that help the unhoused since my son was a young adolescent, right after breaking up with my religion, and it has given him eagle eyes for people in need. He has a lot of homeless friends. We should all have homeless friends. And maybe we should stop calling them that. While the label homeless is useful in identifying someone's circumstance, it also serves to flatten their humanity, to other them. Like the words barbarian, foreigner, illegal, outsider. These are words that allow us to look away. When I think of someone as a homeless person, I don't ask their favorite ice cream or TV show. I don't think I have to. That one word has already told me everything I need to know, right? But that's the lie. That's the disconnection. This section is entitled, "The Church Didn't Fix It, Neither Did the Government." I messed myself up when I left my church and still had this relentless drive to serve. My church gave me a tidy framework for helping others, with a very handy layer of separation. I'd pull up to the big brick building in my fancy Mercedes, drop a gray envelope with a tithing check into my bishop's hand, he in his own fancy-ass suit, and they would solve homelessness for me. Except they didn't. Same with my taxes. My husband sent a chunk of our family income to the government every year. They're supposed to help the unhoused. That hasn't worked out either. Empathy is an action word. I had the chance to hear Senator Cory Booker speak at a town hall in my hometown not long after his 25-hour filibuster. He said something that rattled my bones. Quote, "I'm not going to let my inability to do everything stop me from doing something." End quote. That line has never left me. What he said he's most concerned about in America today isn't partisanship or gridlock. It's what he called a poverty of empathy, and I agree. We have a full-on empathy recession in this country, and the only way out is to make empathy a verb, not a feeling, not a vibe, not a bumper sticker, an action, focused not on issues in the abstract, but on individuals, the ones in your own neighborhood, in your own geographic tribe. The rabbi and the routine. Yeshua, the rabbi from Christian mythology, talked a lot about neighbors. "Who is my neighbor?" they asked him. He didn't answer with theology, he answered with a story about a guy who simply helped someone he came across in his daily routine. That's it. That's the whole model. Yeshua was basically saying, keep your eyes peeled, and when you see someone hurting, do whatever you can. This is exactly how I approach outreach. Instead of handing out a little to a lot of people, sandwiches here, a few bucks there, I help one person as much as I can, and I get a few friends and neighbors involved. You can make a real difference for one person. You can transform their week, their health, even their trajectory. I'll be posting a guide to my program soon, but here's the basic structure. How I do it. The single subject model. First, choose one individual who seems generally stable and potentially rehabilitatable. Someone who sticks to a small area, someone who you feel relatively safe around. KT, like I say, who we're helping right now through this micro model, lives a 5-minute drive away from my home. He is our actual neighbor. We live in the same neighborhood, except that he's sleeping under a bridge and I'm sleeping in an apartment. Number 2, clarify your capacity up front. For example, I will say I can provide 2 meals a week and a small bag of groceries for 1 month. That's clear, generous, and realistic. Number 3, avoid creating dependency. I'm always thinking of a quote that my granddad used to say, give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats forever. So you don't want to create dependency. You're not replacing their hustle. You're supplementing it. You're adding stability, not erasing self-reliance. This is really important. Number 4, keep it consistent and simple. 1 meal a week with some basic supplies delivered regularly is better than sporadic big gestures. Number 5, build a small team. A couple of friends or neighbors can rotate deliveries or pitch in. This also spreads the emotional weight and makes it feel communal. And number 6, protect your safety. Always meet in a public, well-lit space. Bring someone with you if possible. Never share personal information, last names, addresses, social media handles. Never bring anybody to your home or let them know where you live. The tribal instinct revived. You know who didn't have homelessness? Tribes. In tribal cultures, no one is left outside the circle. The model wasn't leaders at the top handing crumbs down. It was many people lifting up one another. Interwoven, interdependent, human. So I started the single subject Neighbors Without Walls project, a micro model for tribal style care, and it works. I wake up thinking about 26-year-old KT like he's one of my kids. I didn't get that when I was writing tithing checks. I do have to admit it's not always sweet. It's not always as tidy as the tithing check. One woman we helped twice a week threw a big gulp of cherry Coke at me because we didn't bring red cream soda. Real connection isn't always neat, but it's always worth it. My atheist church saves people the old-fashioned way. I did write this article before I stepped away from my atheist church to transition into other things. I'll put this in the past tense. Not everyone knows this about me, but I was a pastor of an atheist church. Yes, a real one, chartered, licensed, taken seriously. It was called the Church of Korihor, named after a mythical apostate from the Book of Mormon. Korihor was shunned, cast out, and eventually died homeless in the street, even after renouncing his doubts. That story haunted me. His tribe watched him die. That's not how humans should operate. So my friend and I started a church around the idea that no one gets left behind. We offer drives, rescues, blankets, food, but more than that, we offer Tribe, a service collective for people who left religion but still want to live meaningfully and help their neighbors. And by the way, I am still running the service collective, though I'm no longer affiliated with the church, which now makes 3 religions that I have left: Mormonism, Christianity, and then the atheist church that I myself started. So we ask not what would Jesus do, but what would Korihor need? Start small, think big. This is your invitation, not to change the world, just to change one person's world. I'm spending my time writing this article this morning to inspire you to start your own rescue and your own community. I dream of minimizing consolidated outsourced outreach and seeing people fix the tribal decay that makes us dependent on others to heal our local communities. Start your own Neighbors Without Walls project. Right in your own neighborhood. Choose someone you pass on your walk to work, someone sitting near the store, someone close, someone real. You don't need a nonprofit, although you can start a nonprofit if you'd like to do it that way. You don't need a lot of money. You just need consistency and concern for others. Let's stop waiting for the institutions to save us. Let's remember what we've always known deep down. We are the tribe. One important note, just an important addendum about safety. I did mention that my son will interact with homeless people, and I have a little parenthetic note at the end here that says, My teenager is also carefully trained in safe practices for interaction with unpredictable strangers. He is never alone when he approaches them, never shares personal details, etc. Typically, he asks me to join him. So, safety first. It's so tempting to share personal information. It's so tempting to just say, come to my house, take a shower, let me give you some clothes, especially once you really bond with that person and feel like they're part of your tribe. But I have had some really dangerous situations. I make it a rule of thumb never to trust anybody who's on drugs or in a desperate situation, because you don't want yourself or your children harmed. Some people in my Mormon community learned this firsthand with the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart from her home as her parents invited a homeless man to come do some work for them. Let me add just a couple other little tips. I'm really focused on what my intention is, what my budget is, and what I'm capable of doing. So when we were helping, her name was Miss Kelly, and she had lost her legs to diabetes, and she lived completely in a wheelchair on the streets. Red cream soda woman who threw the big gulp at me. With her, I knew that I couldn't rehabilitate her. We weren't working towards rehab. We weren't working towards job training or rehoming or anything like that. Our goal with her was just to ease her suffering. If you have that clear-cut goal, here's a disabled veteran. I don't have the capacity to get him off the streets or change his life, but I can make sure that he has a hot meal every Friday night. I can make sure that he has a blanket when it snows. And I communicate those goals very clearly to the people that I'm working with. When we first started working with KT, I told him about our Neighbors Without Walls, told him I'd like to help him. I told him exactly what my budget was, what things I'd be able to get for him, and what things I can't get for him. I also shared with him the goals to get him off of drugs, get him off the streets, and get him back to living a meaningful and safe life. It was actually kind of heartbreaking for me. About a month after our family and our tiny group of friends had started working with KT, when I took him some clothes one day, and he told me that he was going to need a little bit bigger sizes in jeans. He said, "You're making me fat." KT has not had consistent nutrition for a very long time. So anytime I go to take him breakfast or his groceries or any of the bike supplies and things that we help him with, I always mix up protein shake. I'll put in the double protein. I take him multivitamins. He likes a children's chewable, and he loves ice cream. Every time I take him anything, I run to Fry's or Walmart really quick, and I just grab him the half gallon of the store brand, like the Kroger or whatever, cookies and cream ice cream with a plastic spoon. And I would imagine that if I didn't have air conditioning and was living in the Arizona heat, that ice cream and ice water would be my go-tos. The target is always nutrition, hydration, hygiene. And I do not give cash. Anytime I do take him cash, KT does buy drugs with it 100% of the time. Malnutrition can be a big hurdle too to getting off of drugs and being able to rehabilitate. Being in prolonged starvation mode isn't good for anybody. And I couldn't do what I do to help support KT if I didn't have people in our neighborhood who are also helping. So there's a huge church just on the corner, and they have some storage rooms. So I spoke to them about letting KT put his bike there when he needs to be transported to get his hair cut or get any type of medical care. And we've also had so many people help with things. We've had people offer to wash and cut his hair. We had a couple donate a bike so that he had transportation, so that his radius of travel expanded greatly. We were able to fundraise for a cell phone for him, and that really helps us so that we have that communication and know where he's at. And some of the local businesses let him charge his device and come in and cool off. So our whole entire village is helping with this one person. I hope this inspires you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And I just want to end with, tribes didn't wait for some president or king to fix everything. They took care of one another. Let's do it.